Yeah, Tom. Hi. Mine is it working? I can't hear anything.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
working.
so don't scare anyone with your voice.
Okay, so hello, my name is Tom,
And my name is Piotr.
and we are two QAs from our humble office, STX Next office from Piła. And today we would like to present you our idea, our chosen idea for the test automation.
That's right. We are going to show you Python Behave, the test automation framework that we've been using in our project. And we consider it a great asset. That's why we wanted to show it to you. And yeah, let's get it started, Tom.
Exactly. So our presentation at the very beginning, we're gonna tell you a little bit about the QA everyday job, maybe, and then how testing. Manual testing. We're gonna, at this second point, we're gonna focus on manual testing and how it can be, well, a little bit frustrating at times, maybe. Then we're gonna show you a small experiment using, automated testing in action. And, well, in order to be 100% honest with you guys, so, yeah, a moment of honesty, and at the end, if we still have time, then we will be more than happy to answer any questions that pop up.
All right.
Yeah, so QA world. Before we get to the gist of our presentation, I think it would be fun, actually, to start with a quote. The quote comes from QA training video and in one of the very, very distant countries, so to say. And to this day, actually, I'm not really sure whether this video was meant to be taken seriously or not. And the quote is quite funny and yet very truthful, so that's why I wanted to present it to you. And so the trainer starts talking and he says, "Daily morning, pray to God. Should developers make mistakes, so we can report them." And then he goes on talking about something else, but after a few seconds he comes back to the topic. And yeah, and he finishes the topic with the words, "But you know what? You don't have to pray to God, because developers will make mistakes. I guarantee you that." And this is the moment where we QAs come in.
Oh yeah, I thought that only QAs were clapping their hands. Okay. So yeah, there are many characteristics that can be used to describe the job of a tester, but we chose one which seems to be very prominent, and we think that software testing may be very repetitive, and
Especially manual testing, right?
yeah, if you need to run a certain test case many times, and yeah, we're gonna illustrate that with the examples we prepared. So let's get it started.
Yes, so now the testing, manual testing, how it can be a little bit frustrating at times. So yes, imagine that developers, developed some feature, right? And now we have to test this feature, so you created a test case, right? What shall we call this test case?
I guess we would call it painfully generic test case that consists of painfully generic steps and painfully generic expected behavior.
Behavior, yes. So it's so generic that you have enough just by looking at it, right? So yeah, you have this test case and you test the feature, okay? But as it very often happens, well, feature doesn't work as intended.
Yeah, and yeah, tester will probably do what he does with a smile on his face, and what keeps developers awake at night, which is to reopen the ticket, right? So this is Tom reopening the ticket.
Yes.
All right. So yeah,
Yes.
this will be the second time you will probably run the painfully generic test case.
Yeah, and it's not over. After that, yes, let's say this fancy picture is supposed to suggest you that sometimes our features are incorporated by bigger features, right? So in order to test the bigger feature, and among dozens of test cases, you have to run the one which you are already familiar with, right? Which is, of course, painfully generic test
Yeah,
case,
so
right?
before you reach to the feature that you want to test, you first need to execute the hated test case, right?
Yeah. And then, yes, of course,
Yeah, so imagine that release date is approaching and all the testers are running regression tests, and among dozen or even hundreds of test cases you will have to run. Guess which one, Tom?
I guess it's painfully generic test case, of course.
How did
yeah.
you know that?
So it's, yes, so it would be the fourth time and it's not over here because, yeah, let's imagine that, well, our stakeholders maybe changed their mind after some time a bit due to our feature and they want really small cosmetic even changes introduced to our feature. So again, what do you have to do? You know what you have to do,
Yeah,
don't you?
you have
Deep
to
down
run.
inside, you know
Yeah,
what you have to do.
You have to run or
You
run
have to
away.
run. But unfortunately, not run away. You have to run a painfully generic test case yet again, right?
Yeah.
So,
So is there a remedy for such a state?
of course, there is, but yeah, at this point, when you have to run again the same generic, painful generic test case, you'll have enough. At some point, you'll have enough, simply,
So
right?
yeah, I guess that a lot of you have heard testers moaning about the need to run the same test case all over again, and this is how we look like when we need to do that.
Exactly. So, yeah. And there is, of course, a remedy, yeah? One which is automate all the things, right? Because it would be much better if the tests could run themselves, yes, without your participation, really. So, yeah, and we've chosen our automation, which is Python behave, right?
Yeah. So before we reach that point, we'll first have to execute some scenarios that we prepared, and yeah, some. Tom,
So
can you
it's time
take
for
your place?
experiments,
Yeah.
simply, yes? So, yeah, I'm going to show you manually testing the API, which...
Okay, so I will do the speaking, and yeah. So for the sake of our presentation, we have used public API of GitHub, and yes, Tom is going to test it manually. He will first make some API calls. There will be two scenarios. The first one is about creating a repository, and the second one is about adding a file to a newly created repository. So as we can see here, Tom has a payload ready to be sent, and yeah.
Yeah, so just for this, yeah, just for the sake of time saving, we've prepared everything earlier because we realized we don't have much time today, so yeah.
All right, so
Okay, let me send it.
this is how manual testing looks like. So we got the response, and the status code is 201, which indicates that the resource has been created, and yeah, everything looks fine. Let's add a file to that repository.
Still, I have to copy the name of the repository, right? Right here. And
Tom, do you want to say something before you click on send?
yeah, last words? No.
Testimony.
File name, yeah, just txt, so yeah. And we have encoded, yeah, the content of the file is encoded in base64 already, so yes.
Yeah, because we didn't want that. We didn't want to do that now to save some time.
And again,
Yeah.
201, which is created, and everything here looks fine. But just to prove,
Yeah, we will go to GitHub and check it ourselves. So let's refresh that and see if repository has been created and also if the file is there. Okay, so it works, and now we're going to see if our automation works as good as.
Yes, it's worth mentioning that the automation will test also the backend side, yes, and user interface as well. We just showed you, yeah, the backend side of the testing, just for also for the sake of time saving. And now, Peter,
Yeah.
yeah,
So before I run behave, I will show you some behave stuff here. So we've got some feature files which contain scenarios. So this is the same case here. We've got create a repository scenario and adding a file to it. So the test will be run at the two levels, so API and UI, and hope nothing has changed since we wrote it. And yeah.
And yeah, it's also worth noting that it's written in Gherkin language, right? Which is very useful because, well, not only testers can use it, not only developers can use it, but also business analysts and like ordinary
it's
people.
very transparent and easy to learn as long as you know the syntax of it. So yeah, and the thing worth mentioning is that each step corresponds to a piece of code kept in Py files. And yeah, I think we are ready to run the tests.
Yes.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, everybody. That wasn't the part of the plan, of course.
Yeah, Tommy, we're supposed to guard it. But okay. So right now I'm running API tests. So as you can see here, we've got a brief summary of the feature file that has just been run, and fortunately 0 failed. So let's see if it worked. So basically I did something that Tom did a few minutes ago. So we've got the new repository here, and we also have a README file in it.
Yeah, so it was not only significantly faster, but also, well, now that I think of it, it's like a butler. It does things for you, right? You don't have to do it.
Yeah, it was faster because your typing took too long. Okay.
Okay, and now the UI tests, right? Let's see it. Well, I don't type that fast, that's for sure.
So it seems that we've just added repository, and now Selenium is going to add a file to it. So again, yeah, it closes. Let me refresh that. The best repo, and again, we've got a file in it. So yeah.
Thank you for all the crossed fingers in the audience. Yes, and but interesting thing is that actually you're not limited to either backend or UI, right? You can combine these two in a single scenario and test backend and user interface at the same time, right?
Yeah. So to show you that, we will first run a scenario which is about shortening a link. So we will first make an API call to get a shortened link, and then we will open it up with Selenium.
That's right. All right, let's get it started. This is really quick test, so you have to keep your eye open, and it's done.
So what we did here is, this is the scenario that has just been run. So we first shortened the link, and then we opened it up.
Yeah, to check if it truly works, right?
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, so maybe it's time to break something.
Yes,
Yeah, so
let's do it.
This is our duty, right?
Yes, that's the thing we QAs do, right? We break things. That's why we're here. That's why we exist.
So I will now modify password so it becomes invalid.
Yes, that's the simplest idea of breaking anything here. So just a small change to the password. And boom, yes.
Yeah, so it failed.
As you can clearly see, and now, but a cool thing is that it can show you exactly at what step it failed and what exactly went wrong, because it's taking screenshots.
So we used environment pi to make screenshots for us. So after each failed step, the screenshot will be taken after each failed step. Yeah. So we've got a directory screenshots, and we can see that it took a screenshot of failed step. We've got the step name here along with a kind of timestamp. Yeah.
Exactly. So you don't even have to look at it. You can just type in the command and go and have a coffee, for example, right? Yes, but everything has its shortcomings, and well, automated testing is not an exception. So a moment of honesty, because we want to be 100% honest with you guys, and there are things that need to be said out loud. First of all, well, automated testing is not 100% reliable, right, Peter?
Yes, so it might be the case that behave indicates that every test has passed. However, there is a bug that hadn't been detected. So we check for the things that were coded, right?
Yes. So if your automation isn't programmed to check something, well, then it won't check it, simply, logical. So if some maybe unusual test case comes to your mind, then, well, you either have to do it manually or you have to code it, yes? There's no way around this, so to say. And yeah, the second thing, sorry.
Yeah.
The second thing is that...
So it's time consuming to start off because before you can write some automated tests, you will first need to get acquainted with Python basics and other tools that will be required to work with automation like Git or like Git
and
or other packages.
And if you're in a big project with a really sophisticated and complex application, then, well, that means that for starters, you'll have to code and create really lots of test cases, and this also would take quite a lot of time,
Yeah,
right?
but we need to have in mind that Python behave allows us to reuse the code that we have already written, so we can apply the same step to many feature files.
And last but not least, I would say that's even the most important of the three, maintenance. Because, to put it simply, a test case that worked, let's say, a week ago doesn't have to work now, today, right? Because, well, the application is almost like a living organism, right? It constantly changes, evolves, and you have to also adjust and update your test case or your automated test cases to reflect this, right?
Yeah, so you need to bear in mind that some changes might have been introduced, and you need to adjust your test to it. So, for example, selector might have changed as far as UI tests are concerned, or the payload has changed, or the URL that you send requests to. So you need to adjust to the changes that are taking place within your application.
That's right. So this is the questions time, but Madam Moderator, do we still have time for questions?
Yes, 10 minutes.
Okay, good. Any questions?
Hey, thank you for this. Very, very cool. So, how much of your time in your projects, more or less, do you spend still clicking with a mouse? Like, how much of the testing is basically automated, and how much is more or less happening by hand still?
So, as far as I can tell, because our team divided not so long ago, actually. So,
Fortunately.
yeah.
I'm no longer with Tom.
So, as far as I can tell, I click manually the newest features or the newest stories, and then after verification, just for the sake of some retesting or regression testing, I automate them, and then they're already automated. Or so, yeah, because I don't want to automate the the scenarios before developers finished developing them, because in this case I can't really know whether it works or not, simply, yes, because I'm not able to run them and check whether it's passed, right? So this is just my experience.
Yeah, so we do not automate new features. We still test them manually first, and then so we've got some happy paths covered with
Yeah.
our automated tests. Uh, yeah.
And guys, one question. So I wouldn't be myself if I wouldn't ask. I mean, the business question. So what's the ROI? I mean, so for us business people, I saw how it how it works in our project. So the benefits are really awesome. I mean, like we see what was the how much time would we need to test everything manually, and we see the benefits. So how it is in your case? Can you say something about it?
So yeah, we noticed that we can save a lot of time as far as regression tests are concerned. So when it comes to regression, we just run our automated tests, and yeah.
And sometimes there was a case that we got the production bug and we didn't really know where the issue was located, and so we just run a bunch of automated scenarios, and yeah, which in normal conditions by hand it would take like half an hour really, and automated took like 5 minutes, even
Yeah.
less, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we've been able to automatically see what exactly is wrong and where. Yes, so this is also quite beneficial, I would say. Yeah.
And yeah, automated tests are also a good solution for us because our API is sometimes very dynamic. And yeah, if some changes are needed very fast, very quickly, then we can reassure that our API remained un remained unchanged, let's say, after some important changes made to it.
Yeah.
Hi. So regression testing deals a lot with, I would call it base testing, right? We are testing functionality, but not really going beyond that. So I was wondering actually if you can go on about how would we test, let's call it more complex scenarios. I have an application, maybe I want to test timing, like user experience through timing, for example. And then obviously due to caching mechanisms and complexity beyond that, I would actually maybe want to formulate a rule like 99% of my requests should be served within that amount of time. And these sort of very complex scenarios that I find really difficult to handle with automated testing.
Actually, as far as we can tell, you can do almost anything with automated testing, right? Because everything that you can do as a human being, you can program, actually. So, and as far as timing is concerned, yeah, that's totally doable as well. We just prepared the very simple tests because we didn't have time for more complex scenarios, simply, yes? But yes, you can do it. You can program actually whatever you want to do manually or by eye. You can everything program, simply. So you mean the load testing? Yes, something.
So you may use some external tools like Locust It is a small tool written in Python, so you can execute some load tests using it. You can make unlimited number of requests in a second and see if it breaks or not.
Yeah, I have one other question. Does anybody else but the QA write behave tests? And is it worth to write this extra layer of code?
So we think it is worth writing automated tests. Initially, we were supported by devs, but right now we are.
Yeah, it takes some time, of course, to get
Get used
proficient simply, as with writing, especially the Python part of the automated scenarios. So at the very beginning, sure, we needed the help of our dear colleagues, developers. But yeah, it just takes time, and after some time, you just get used to it and do it yourself. Maybe with some really strange or unusual steps, then maybe we ask for help, but this is very rare occasion. Yeah.
So my question was more about, does the behave layer, is it worth to write it, or would it be enough just to write Python tests without this behave?
You mean
okay.
if it's
Natural,
necessary to use Python behave, or we are good with Python itself, right?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
So the thing I said before is that we can reuse our code. It means that first of all, Python uses Gherkin language, which is very friendly to people who are not acquainted with IT in general. So business analysts can use it easily, write their scenarios.
But do they use it?
It's complicated in our project, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's an easy way to reuse the code you've already written and make some minor changes to.
Yes, because a lot of steps actually repeat themselves. So quite often you don't have to write the code for each individual step. You can just reuse it and reuse it. So it saves also a lot of time and and also if there is some big, let's say, really complicated, unusual step, and it's already coded, you don't have to code it again, even if you don't know how, so you can just copy it. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's it.
another thing is, another advantage of Behave is that you have this environment py file that can be used to set up some configuration. So you can, for example, make some hooks like you can set what happens after each scenario or before each scenario, what happens after each step. So it's very useful, very easy. Like in the example we provided, so we took a screenshot of failed step and we used environment configuration for that.
Automated tests, they save a lot of time, but you also get to test on multiple browsers, multiple systems, and it actually multiplies the time you need it. So how do you tackle this multi-browser, multi-system environment?
For UI tests, we've been using Selenium, and as far as I know, it supports 2 browsers. It is Firefox and Chrome, and I don't know, we didn't.
Well, we didn't touch the Internet Explorer for obvious reasons, right? So,
yeah, but
so we don't know as far as this one is concerned.
There must be some kind of workaround to make it run on several browsers.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now.